Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive.
Always.
Awesome. So today we're tackling Bitcoin, which, well, it's kind of taken over the world, hasn't it? We're going to try to figure out if it's a good investment, for regular people like us,
Right, exactly. Should you actually buy some? And we'll also get into this whole idea of it maybe even becoming like the world's main currency.
which sounds kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
But we'll get into that.
Yeah.
So first things first, Bitcoin just blew past $100,000. I mean, that's got to mean something,
Oh,
right?
it definitely turned some heads, that's for sure.
Yeah, I bet. What do you think? Does that price jump make you want to run out and buy Bitcoin? Or does it kind of scare you off?
I think it makes it even more important to understand what we're actually dealing with here.
Totally. So let's break it down. Let's
Mm.
say I'm thinking about investing in Bitcoin. What are the pros? Paint me a rosy picture.
All right, well, you can't ignore the potential for big returns. I mean, hitting $100,000 is a pretty good example of that.
Yeah, no kidding.
And, a lot of people see it as a way to diversify their portfolio,
Diversify meaning.
meaning not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
So stocks, bonds, maybe some real estate, and then a little sprinkle of Bitcoin for something completely different.
Interesting. But is it really that different from, say, investing in gold? I know people talk about Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation, just like gold.
Yeah, that's a popular comparison. The idea is that with traditional currencies, governments can just print more, right?
Right.
Which can lead to inflation, your money's worth less. But Bitcoin, there's a fixed supply, only 21 million will ever exist. So, in theory, it should hold its value better, even if everything else is going up in price.
Okay, I can kind of see that.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, isn't there a lot of risk with Bitcoin? Like, what if the government decides to just ban it one day?
Oh, absolutely. Regulation is a huge question mark hanging over Bitcoin's head.
Yeah.
Governments are still trying to figure out how to handle it. And any new laws could send the price soaring or
Yeah.
plummeting. Nobody really knows.
So it's kind of a gamble.
In a lot of ways, yeah. And then there's the whole security issue.
Right. I've heard those stories about people getting their Bitcoin stolen by hackers. It makes me nervous just thinking about it.
Yeah, and it's not just hackers. I mean, you could just lose your password to your Bitcoin wallet.
And then what? It's just gone.
Proof. Gone, like it never existed. So security is a big deal. You really have to do your homework and understand the risks.
Okay, so we've talked about the ups and downs of investing in Bitcoin. But now let's get to the really wild stuff. Could Bitcoin actually become the main currency for the whole world?
All right, so to understand that, we have to talk about what a reserve currency even is. Basically, it's the currency that central banks around the world use for international transactions. Right now, that's mostly the US dollar.
Right, the big dog.
Exactly. So for Bitcoin to take over, it would have to be accepted and trusted by, well, pretty much everyone.
So what's the argument for Bitcoin? Why would it even be considered?
Well, one big thing is that it's decentralized. No single government or institution controls it.
So it's kind of like the Wild West of currency.
In a way, yeah. And some people see that as a good thing. It could level the playing field in global finance.
Interesting.
And then there's that limited supply again. That could help protect against inflation, like we talked about earlier.
Right. But wouldn't that same volatility, the big price swings, wouldn't that make it a terrible reserve currency? Imagine the chaos.
Exactly. That's one of the biggest arguments against it. Could you imagine the global economy running on something that jumps up and down like Bitcoin does? It'd be a roller coaster ride.
No thanks. And what about, like, actually using it? Can Bitcoin even handle all the transactions that would happen if it were the world's currency?
That's another good point. There are definitely questions about its scalability. And then there's the environmental impact. Bitcoin mining uses a lot of energy. Some people argue it's just not sustainable.
So it sounds like the idea of Bitcoin as the world's main currency is still pretty far-fetched.
Yeah, it's definitely not happening tomorrow. But even if it doesn't become the reserve currency, it's definitely shaking things up.
Right. It's forcing us to think differently about money and value. It's like the whole concept of money is evolving right in front of our eyes.
Exactly. And that's exciting, but it's also a little bit scary, right?
For sure. So to wrap it all up, Bitcoin is this, well, it's a wild card. It has huge potential, but also some serious drawbacks.
Mm.
Big gains are possible, but so are big losses. And its future, well, nobody knows for sure.
The bottom line is if you're thinking about getting involved with Bitcoin, do your research.
Yeah, like really do your research.
Understand the technology, the risks, the potential rewards. Because this is still the early days. Who knows what the future holds for Bitcoin?
Well, that's the fun part, right?
Exactly. It's a financial revolution in progress, and it's definitely worth paying attention to.
Absolutely. And hey, even if you decide not to invest, just thinking about these big ideas about the future of money, it's pretty mind-blowing, isn't it?
Totally. It makes you wonder, what will the world look like in 10, 20 years? How will we be using money? Will we even recognize it?
Lots to think about.
Definitely.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.